What better place to talk about trains and streetcars than the National Museum of Transportation in St. Louis County? And that's where we met up with former museum director Molly Butterworth, who is the author of Trains and Trolleys, Railroads and Streetcars in St. Louis. This follows her previous book on the history of St. Louis's automobile industry. After that came out, the publishers said,
okay, there's another great story on wheels we need to explore in St. Louis. That would be railroading and streetcar wheels. So how about
and you knew where to find that.
I knew exactly where the treasure trove, both two-dimensional and three-dimensional, that history was.
The museum started out in the 1940s as really just a collection of stuff that train buffs were saving from the scrap heap. But the location itself, which was originally leased from the Union Pacific Railroad, contained an important piece of railroad history that wasn't going anywhere.
There's actually another almost identical but slightly longer tunnel just east of us here at the Museum of Transportation. These are national engineering landmarks. They are the first two man-made railroad tunnels built west of the Mississippi River. The engineer for these tunnels, James P. Kirkwood.
So the idea then for St. Louis was to build a railroad heading west.
Exactly, departing from downtown St. Louis heading west with the eventual goal of reaching the Pacific Ocean.
In the history of railroading coming out of St. Louis and Missouri and the West, this is important.
It really is important. This tunnel and its twin just a little bit east of us really are a testament to the fact St. Louis was the leader here in the Midwest when it came to railroading. They were doing things nobody else had yet done.
At least
like
on this
build
side
tunnels.
of the river.
Exactly.
But you've probably heard this version of the story, that St. Louis business interests were so tied to the river and riverboats that they resisted building a railroad bridge here, and the rest is, well, Chicago history. But Molly Butterworth presents a slightly different version in her book. The local business that was going to be really hurt by the railroad bridge was the very busy and very profitable Wiggins ferry operations that moved people and goods and even train cars themselves from one side of the river to the other.
Please forgive me, any descendants of the Wiggins family. I point my finger directly at the Wiggins Ferry Company. Thanks to their political and economical pull here in St. Louis, they were able to delay just discussions about having a railroad bridge built over the Mississippi River going from Illinois into downtown St. Louis. That, of course, led to delays in the construction of such bridge. Those exact delays led to Chicago jumping ahead of us and becoming the real Midwestern Railroad hub because we waited too long to cross the river.
We were visiting here on a day the museum was closed, but they were training drivers who would give visitors streetcar rides. Other people were working here as well, and we headed to an important part of this place that most folks don't see. The archives, filled with all kinds of stuff. They're here for a very different kind of visitor.
Both primary sources as well as great secondary sources that are period accurate, so it really is a gift for researchers, including history researchers like me.
You want to know the price of a locomotive in 1852? Archivist Teresa Militello can find that for you.
In 1852, the Taunton Locomotive Company manufactured a locomotive called the Pacific No. 3 for $7,600.
And then there was the time some folks in Colorado who were restoring an old streetcar that was built in St. Louis wanted to paint it the right colors. They asked if maybe she could help, and boy, could she. In all the stacks of stuff here, she found something called a paint book for that very streetcar.
You could have knocked me over with a feather that I found their order. This is the actual, all of how the decoration would look, the detail information about placement.
But it's not just history of machines, but social history as well. A look back to a time of industrialization, robber barons, and bitter labor management strife, like an 1886 railroad strike.
And the railroad received a series of threatening letters and postcards. Oh, you will play with firearms, oh you rat, you got it, did you? Wait and see. You know, you can start doing a little bit more background research and bring more of that human element into it and make it more relatable to, what's happening to people today.
This stuff has been found, donated, often saved from the trash by rail enthusiasts and volunteers for decades. In the 1950s, our children's show host came here and met the people in charge, Doc and Mary Roberts. They were living in a train car and showed off the very first piece of the collection, the little streetcar that started it all. I had to come see this because this is sort of the charter member of the museum.
You are exactly right. This is the Bell Fountain mule-drawn streetcar.
Mule-drawn.
Mule-drawn, not electric, mule-drawn.
Yeah.
That ran from the early 1870s until about 1895 from downtown St. Louis up to Bell Fountain. But during the World War II scrap drives, it was looked at in terms of being donated for scrap. Yeah. Fortunately, the St. Louis Railway enthusiasts knew of it and of its possible demise, so they acquired it and did so before the Museum of Transportation was even founded, so it was stored in one of the members' basement garages.
Wow. It was a big undertaking for Molly Butterworth to tell such a wide-ranging story. Not just a story about the equipment, but the business, the economy, the neighborhoods, the people. All of it tied together by an intricate web of rails. For Living St. Louis, I'm Jim Pritchard.